Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to our August 25th, 2021 meeting of the Building Membership Council. Of course, very appreciative of everybody that has taken the time to spend about an hour or so with us here on a busy afternoon. And I don't know how things are all across the United States, but I know in North Carolina, we're busy as the dickens, and that's a good thing. And we're trying to stay that way and also trying to put a lot of issues and problems to bed that some of us are new for us, supply chain issues being one that has okay. Whoever is being passed by a fire truck, please mute. Who's driving right now?
Dan, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody.
Okay.
As a matter of practice right now, we'll do that, and then you'll have to unmute so you can speak. You should be able to go ahead, Dan.
I did. And just everybody remember, we want you to participate. We want to hear from you, that's for sure. But we've evidently got some people traveling and the road noise is distinctly loud enough that I'm afraid we'll miss something. So Bill has got everybody muted. And when you have something to say, please unmute and then mute back. Anyway, again, a quick welcome. Thank you all for being here. Again, just glad that you could join us and be with us. And that goes for not just GC members, but all of the visitors. Before I get started, I want to just make my recently retired building officials public service announcement. Everybody remembers where we were this year last time. And everybody, if you're listening to news, listens to a daily litany of a ramp up of COVID cases, issues with hospitals finding beds for all the people, nurses and doctors who are distraught and overworked. Guys, we've been here before, and we've been here in a time where it's short enough past that we remember what it was like. We learned an awful lot, and we did a lot of good things that enhanced our abilities to do our jobs in our communities. I urge you now, no matter where you are, take advantage of everything we learned last year. Get that information out to your communities, get it out to your partners in the community, get it out to your chapters that represent building inspectors and our personnel all across the state. Share, 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 and communicate. I'm not going to say anything else, but I urge you to use what you learned last year. Be preemptive and be proactive, because you're going to make a difference in your community if you do now what you know how to do and learned how to do last year. We learned so many new things, came up with so many new processes, aided so many partners and citizens. It's just an untold value that we added in the communities we serve. So don't forget what we learned. Go back and pick it up and start it again right now. Don't wait. Pick it up again. Start it right now. We always talk about being valuable first responders in our communities when emergencies or critical situations arrive. Well, let's use this opportunity to be first preventers in our community. Let's take care of the people we love. Let's take care of the people we come in contact with, and let's make a difference in our community. And with that, I'm going to get off of that soapbox And again, welcome everybody here. I want to recognize our GC. I want to recognize all the other MC attendees who are on here, our guests, and certainly our board of directors. And what I'd like to do, if I've got any board members or other MC representatives on here, I'd like to give them a chance to say hello and talk to all of us. And so with that, any other MC members, liaisons, or board of directors, the floor is open. Love to hear from you and welcome.
Thanks, Dan. Randy Matz from the Fire Service Membership Council. Thank you for continuing to coordinate this, and look forward to a great call.
Thanks, Randy. Appreciate it, man.
Greg Wheeler, Thornton, Colorado.
Greg, glad to have you on here. Thanks for being here with us. We appreciate it.
No problem.
David Spencer here, Washington State. Just glad to listen in. Always enjoy it. Always enjoyed my time when I served with you guys on training the next generation and all that. And just always glad to hear what you guys have to say.
Appreciate the kind words and appreciate the footprint that you established for us to follow. And thanks for all the good work. And every day now, we see the benefits of the people who came in here with the Building Membership Council before us and kind of blazed a trail, set sites for us to focus on, and kind of, I guess, plowed that first furrow. And we're hopefully planting good seeds and all that. We'll make it grow and fruit. I think I saw Ron Hampton's hand up.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dan. Good to see everybody, kinda. Hopefully we'll see each other in person in Pittsburgh. Looking forward to it. I'm here to help you and support you in any way we can, along with the rest of the board. Thank you so very much for what you do.
I appreciate it, Ron. And you know, with them having to put up with me, we're going to need all the help we can get. And I appreciate you sticking with us. Thank you, man.
To ask for a shed permit for that kind.
Mike Boso, coming from Grove City, Ohio. It's good seeing all you guys. Can't wait to see you in Pittsburgh.
Mike, that's an odd looking beard that you've replaced there, man. He takes his beard off and he has to mask up. I'll tell you what. Greg, your hand's raised again, or did you punch that in error?
No, I thought that I'd share about 3 or 4 little quick items with you. One you've touched on, the annual conference is only about 3 weeks away now, less than 4. We have the most candidates running for, we have more candidates than seats this time around, which is great. We have 2 candidates, as most of you are aware, running for Secretary Treasurer position. And then we have 6 candidates running for 5 board positions. It's great to have that much interest to where we'll have a little competition. Let me see. One of the things that you need to be aware of, if you haven't noticed already on the schedule, is that the public comment hearing is actually going to start Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock and not Wednesday at 1 o'clock like it traditionally does. Also on Tuesday, it will close at or before 5 o'clock on Tuesday, so that those members that have a ticket to the Connections Gala will be able to attend that. The other thing I wanted to point out about the Connections Gala, I know that over the years that many of the board members, you know, our chapter members or people that we know will come up and go, oh, I forgot my ticket in my room, or, you know, I didn't have time to get it done. Can you get me into the banquet? It cannot happen this year. Every seat is sold at the Connections Gala. In fact, it's so bad that we moved some of staff out of that traditionally go to the banquet. They are not attending, so we would have more seats for more members. So don't go up to a board member or something and say, hey, can you get me in? Because they can't. There are no tickets available. Usually we have several seats left over for the banquet. Not happening this year. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. So don't put a board member or a staff person on the spot to say no to you by asking them if they can do you a favor. So That's all I had. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew about when the code hearings are starting and that the gala is sold out. So thanks for your time.
No, thank you, President. We appreciate it. We really, really do. And I want to tag on to something he said. He talked about the number of candidates. I don't know if y'all noticed it, but we had an unusually high number of applications for people who want to serve on councils this year. I think that's a great thing, an absolutely marvelous thing. We had in excess of 20 people in BMC. I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but we had in excess of 20 people fill out applications to be BMC GC members. That's wonderful. Needless to say, we cannot add all of those people to the GC. But what that should remind us is there are lots of valuable people out there who are smart, who are encouraged, and who want to get involved with ICC and with our membership councils so that they can add not only to their own resume, that's a fact, no matter what you say, they add it to the resume, but they want to add their opportunities to interact and network with good people in this business. And people, that's how communications and good programs get started and get carried out and carried on into the future. So I encourage everybody to take the time to look at all those applications, to use that knowledge, reach out to those people, encourage them to become more involved. Just because you're not on an MC doesn't mean, or an MCGC doesn't mean that you can't. Period. Number of activities where you can be a contributing force that helps better all of our inspection efforts. So again, we've got a lot of applications, a lot of people who want to get involved. Now it's our job to find ways to make good use of these bright, smart, energetic, and engaged people. And we're not doing our jobs if we don't. And so I'll hush about that, but it's a fact, and keep it in your toolbox and use it. Remember, your people are your best asset, your most valuable people. The other thing is, if you're traveling, as most of us are, to the ABM, have a backup plan. Okay, I read daily horror stories about plane cancellations, flights that don't get off the tarmac because of staffing levels for a litany of reasons. Have a backup plan. And so one more thing too, I don't know if you've checked it out, but it takes 45 minutes by cab, Uber, or anything else to get from the airport in Pittsburgh to the site where this event is being hosted. Take that into consideration in your travel plans, okay? Anyway, safe journeys to all of you, and I'm excited about seeing you in person again. And so with that, I'll hush. Who else have we got on here? I've seen a couple more people come in from other GCs. I'd like for you to have an opportunity to say hi, if you will. Hearing none and seeing no hands raised, on to item 2. Bill, would you call the roll for us?
Yeah, sure, Dan. Thanks. So in the interest of time, to move it along, I was able to capture certain people who are on the governing committee. I'll run down that, and then I'll do a couple of others so we can move through this. I have Dan Dockery, Ed Lisinski, Matt Archer. Matt is not out there, I don't believe. Audrey Klein,
I'm here.
I have you.
I'm here, Bill.
Oh, Matt. Okay, I apologize. Let me get you.
Yep.
Thank you, Matt. Audrey Klein, I have you. Mark Matheny, I see Mark. Chris McWhite. Mike Metcalf. Steve Nordhughes. Did Steve join? Let's see, Steve. Amarinda Singh. Amarinda, did you join? Yes.
Present.
Got you. Thank you. Martin Van Gundy. Have you? I have you, Martin.
Yep.
Jim Willamette. Have you as well, Jim. Doug Wise. Is Doug with us? No, Doug Wise. Okay, so I also have, let's see. I have Greg Wheeler, Mike Boso, Ron Hampton, Dave Spencer. Any other board of directors on the call?
Jim Brown.
Hey, Jim, thank you. Did I see Tom Peterson also? Did Tom join? No. How about any other staff people? I see Mark Roberts, Tim Schmidt. Any other staff that I don't see on this list?
How about old past presidents of ICC?
Good call. Good call, Mr. Boso. Absolutely. We have at least one. Cash, you can't.
Yeah, he's here.
There you go.
How's
Thank you for
everybody
joining.
doing?
Good. Anybody that cares to be notified as a registered guest, I'll ask you to please send an email to me. I'll make that noted. If you do speak during the meeting, I'll also make note of that and include you in the minutes. But you'll all get the minutes as well once they get approved. So should be all set, Dan, to go forward.
Okay, great. And again, before I move on to the next item, did anybody join that wants to have an opportunity to speak, to greet people, to let us know something that's going on that's going to be important or of value to us as we move forward?
Doug Wise, I just joined. I'm sorry I was in a meeting with my director. I was delayed.
Okay. And that's particularly important to me because in just a few minutes, I'm going to have Doug talking to you a little bit. So, glad you're here, Doug. Glad you could make it. Okay. Item 3, any further announcements, any changes or adjustments to today's agenda as posted?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as written.
A second, just for value?
Randy, that's a second that.
All right, sounds good. Let's move on. And what I'd like to do is I would like to change the order in this agenda and move item 5 up to the next slot. That is the approval of the meeting minutes from June 23rd, 2021. Attached to the invitation for this meeting was a copy of a draft copy of those meeting minutes from June 23rd. I'm sure that everybody's taken time to review them in detail. Do I have any adjustments or changes proposed to those meeting minutes? And if I do not, I'd entertain a motion to approve them as written.
This is Jim from the city of St. Paul. Messed that up. Make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Matheny, second.
Thanks, Mark.
You did fine, Jim. We won't hold you against that. Okay. All righty.
Hey,
Moving
Dan,
on now. Yeah.
Dan, just wanted to make a quick note. For people that may be listening in and they hear about these minutes, one of the things we've done more recently is post the recorded meetings on the ICC Media YouTube page. So I would suggest if anybody would like to see you on camera or hear you, feel free to go to the ICC Media site, and there is a playlist there for membership councils, the Building Membership Council, Governing Committee, Fire Service Membership Council, Governing Committee, and a couple of our subcommittees are all posted there for your viewing pleasure. So please check it out.
Thanks, Bill. And that's a great thing. And I want to remind you again, what an awesome effort that is to have that done and have it available in that fashion. And also one thing Bill didn't mention, they are time stamped. So if you have a particular item on the agenda or the meeting minutes that you want to review, you can go back in and pull up the draft meeting minutes and it has the timestamp on it. So you can go straight to that point to find the item or article of interest that we were talking about. And all the rest about having the opportunity to see us live and in person, we'll just skip over that and go on anyway. And next thing, and this was great, and I've not been up to date on this as many people are, but there's not a lot of information coming out about it. And I'm talking about our item 4, update on the panel discussion for ensuring the safety of existing buildings. We have had through ICC a number of people involved in this and engaged in this, and that's as it should be. Anything that is preventable, we ought to be involved in. And this was absolutely preventable. And I'm not blaming building officials for this. I'm just saying, let's work to change the process so these kind of things do not happen. Let's figure out why. But we have here Ed Lasinski, who is in a car, and Doug Wise, who has been intimately involved with it. And we've got some other people from Florida on the call here today too. And so I'm going to open the floor up first to Doug and Ed, and then I'm going to let them lead this discussion and tell us what's going on. Doug, Ed?
Well, yeah, thanks, Dan. And I'm actually just going to toss it right over to Doug because he knows a lot more about this than I do. But just so everybody's aware, we were able to, Doug and I did a presentation for the Fire Service Membership Council last week. I think that went very well. Doug kind of laid out some of the things that are happening down in Florida right now as a result of this, and sort of where they're going, some of the efforts that they're taking, like you said, to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So I'll turn it over to Doug. I'm sorry, I usually have a whole bunch of notes all over, so I know what I got to touch base on, but I'm coming back from Madison. I was testifying for the interior designers to be able to stamp plans here in Wisconsin, which congratulations. I hear North Carolina just passed that like a week or two ago. So they brought that up a couple of times. You guys are a step ahead of us up here in Wisconsin. But with that,
very, very limited basis, Ed.
Yep.
The devil is in the details here, and I don't think it's as far-reaching as it's not anywhere near as far-reaching as they wanted to go. But
yeah.
Yes, in limited situations.
Yeah.
But I'll move on. We'll talk about that's a good conversation for us moving forward, but just not right now.
Yep. And that's what we're doing here too, is limited scope. But anyway, like you said, it's another conversation. Doug, if you want to take it from there, and we'll let you jump in there.
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, obviously, since the Surfside collapse, there's been a lot of discussions going on. You know, the day of the collapse, I have the county administrator on the phone calling me, what are we doing here? Are we going to adopt the program? There's been a lot of knee-jerk reactions. I really don't like knee-jerk reactions as a code official. I would tell you I like, stuff to be orderly and measured. I like consensus-based code revisions. I don't like legislative stuff, which happens, but this week, the city of Boca Raton, which is the southernmost city in Palm Beach County, right up against the Broward County line, adopted a recertification program. It was homegrown. It's sort of their own thing. The building official advised me that it had been drafted by his city attorney, and he didn't even see it till the first reading. Now, they might have made some changes through the second reading, but there is a big initiative here and a big push for people to figure out what went wrong and make sure it'll never happen again. A lot of people are scared. Insurance industry is a little bit frightened. It was nice that ICC brought in a panel of experts to the Hilton in West Palm Beach. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there because I was presenting what we're talking about to my Board of County Commissioners at the same time. So there were a number of folks from the local chapter of ICC in the room with the meeting, and they were impressed with the experts. But what we had been working on prior to that for 3 weeks was a local regulation. I guess you have to understand how things work in Florida, and I'm not really familiar how the administrative stuff works in other states. But we have Chapter 1 is considered the administration of the Florida Building Code, or for you guys it'd be the IBC. But our administrative chapter is subject to local amendment, so long as we are not less stringent than the minimum inspections and requirements in Chapter 1, as the base code. We do adopt things. We have unsafe building provisions in there. And the discussion is the way it was done in Broward County was the 40-year model was adopted through a Chapter 1 amendment. Now, I have a PowerPoint, but I don't know that you guys want to all see that. And I'll defer to the chair if you want to see the PowerPoint. But basically, it's a big problem for us. There are thousands of buildings, and everybody's kind of struggling how to do it. There's been a lot of discussion about Florida engineers, because the engineers, in Florida, the engineers aren't licensed for specialties. Let me put it that way. Like Texas, I understand you have structural engineer licenses, you have mechanical engineer licenses, etc. But in Florida, the engineers are licensed. You're just an engineer. And if you're competent to practice in a given area, you do. And so the question is, who determines who's competent? And I guess you determine you're competent. So that creates some issues in this. We do have additional requirements for large buildings. So we have what's called a threshold building. And I've tried to look for an analog for that in the international, but it's not there that I've seen, because it comes directly out of Florida statute. And it was a result of some collapses that happened way back in the 60s and 70s. And the threshold building regulations are defined as applying to buildings over 3 stories, over 50 feet tall, over 5,000 square foot if an assembly occupancy, with over 500 persons. So, it's a very specific scope. And in those buildings, there is inspection above and beyond what the building department does on them. The threshold inspector is required to be either an architect licensed by the state of Florida or an engineer licensed by the state of Florida with a special inspector credential. So they have to have, and apparently, I don't know where Florida got its special inspector credential, but none of the building officials are licensed as threshold inspectors right now. There was some discussion with BOAF Legislative Committee over the last cycle to try and get our guys licensed, some building officials to be licensed as special inspectors. But I'm not sure that has occurred at this point. And I would be sort of against it, because I think it's you put yourself in a perilous position when you're deciding structural issues on a building that we may not be qualified to do. You need a qualified structural engineer with the right credentials. Some of them are forensics. There's a lot going on in these large buildings, and a lot of different kinds of systems that you're dealing with. And I'm not sure, as much as I, respect and admire the credentials we all worked hard to get, those building official credentials, I'm not sure that's the same as somebody who practices, in flat plate construction or post tension, some of these high-tech systems that are out there in these buildings. So, I mean, we have all kinds of issues with them. Corrosion is obviously a problem for us. So the model, I can share the model if you want. You know what I'll do, Dan, is I'll send you a copy of the model program, and I'll send you the PowerPoint. If anybody's interested, you can share it with them. But it's a big deal for us, because particularly on the coastline, we are constantly renovating buildings. And, the salt water corrosion and, the chlorides in the concrete itself, when the concrete gets wet, that's what fails. The jury's still out on what happened in Surfside, but it's very clear that the failure started with the pool deck. And the pool deck collapsed, and then like 12 minutes later, the center part of the building collapsed, and it was all down within another 2 minutes, all of it except the part that remained standing. And one of the things that has come out as a result of that is, that at some point in time, the existing pool deck, which was served as a deck and the ceiling of a parking garage, the floor below, had, was not the waterproofing had failed, and they put sand set pavers on top of it. So, we don't know if it was a combination of loading or what happened, but it's clear from all the videos so far that it failed at the pool deck first, and that it appears initially that there were 2 columns that may have been, a couple of people have commented they felt that those might have been undersized, that those columns failed, and that pulled down the central core of the building, and the rest of the building followed. It was a progressive collapse. And the question is, did we know? Should we have known? Clearly, they knew something as early as 2018. It's reported that they knew about it in 2016. And, you know, as a building official, I don't know if you guys feel, but I sure don't want to be standing out there telling 300 families, get out, go find a hotel. You need a place to live. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues to come into play with this issue. You know, where's the money coming from to repair these buildings? You know, I've had people yell at me that they got special assessments on renovation projects on existing condos in my community. And, you know, it's like, hey, it's not my fault it costs what it costs. Your building needs to be maintained. You know, if you're going to have a building on the ocean, you got to maintain it. So, you know, I don't know the answers. I don't have all the answers, but there's going to need to be legislative changes to how the HOA reserves work and how the money gets doled out to make these repairs. I think there needs to be some way to break the connection between the engineer doing the evaluation and the contractor doing the repair. A lot of times those guys come in pairs, and I should say ladies too. I don't mean to be sexist. You know, but that they're working in tandem. And so the one that comes in with a low bid on what the evaluation cost will be for the recertification is in bed, so to speak, with the contractor. And they're like low bidding it so they get the job, and then they get into it and it doesn't cover everything. So there are issues of ethics involved. There are issues with the legal aspects of the HOAs. You know, there's a whole bunch involved. I mean, think about these guys making decisions about who's going to fix this building. You know, they're volunteers. The president of the association is a volunteer. He got elected because he's a nice guy and he lives in apartment 14C. And so now he's going to be responsible for a $10 million project to renovate the building and make sure the reserves aren't tapped out. So it's ugly at every angle that we look at. You know, the only thing I would say is building safety is paramount. So, you know, I don't care what it costs. It costs what it costs. And the other thing that I know is that if you do it when it's needed up front, early on, it will cost less than what you wait for. Surfside, they were facing, what, $100,000 per unit in assessments. The total bill was over 10 million and, you know, had been pushed back for at least 3-4 years. I mean, that's, you know, it's too late there. So I don't have answers. I only have suggestions. But we have a draft program for adoption. Any community can adopt it by amending their Chapter 1. And then theoretically, there's still got to be an enforcement piece locally. So whether that's in your housing code or your property maintenance code, each jurisdiction has to think about that. But, you know, again, legally, I don't know where it is, where you stand. Each state has different laws that govern some of that. But in the state of Florida, it's pretty consistent. Broward and Dade did it with their Chapter 1. But, you know, for them, it's different because they have a special act of the Florida legislature in those two counties where there is a BORA, which is a Board of Rules and Appeals, that governs all the building departments in the county. And all the building departments in Dade and Broward County fall under their respective BORA systems, and they have to get approved by them. They have to adhere to the BORA regulations. The rest of the state is pretty Wild West. So we all, you know, we all follow the Florida Building Code, but we all can adopt our own administrative provisions. You know, for example, the things we inspect here in Palm Beach County or require on plan review are different than what people inspect in other counties around the state. So, you know, I don't know that the Florida Building Code made it all a level playing field, but we still have a ways to go, at least on administrative provisions. So I don't know what else to tell you. The main thing is building officials should not try to be the special inspectors. That clearly takes credentials and expertise that I don't want to assume that liability. I think any building official that tries to do that, you're taking on huge liability on your community. Stop and think about it. You know, if you do a special inspection and you say everything's great and something goes wrong, I mean, You know, the deep pockets are always the community. You know, I don't know how many people come to you guys every year and say, you know, you permitted this, you inspected it, but it failed. It's your fault. And, you know, I defend that constantly. I said, look, we didn't build it. We didn't even engineer it. You know, we did our inspection the best we could do. We spent 15 minutes on site on work that took thousands of man hours to construct. You know, you want to talk to somebody, talk to your contractor. So, but you don't get to do it with this. So I would say that you need to work with your fire folks if you're going to do something like this. Anybody sees, I'll be interested to see what ICC comes up with, because I think I would be interested. There was a lot of expertise in the room from ICC, and you know, we were hoping we could wait for that, but it's not going to happen here because everybody's pushing so hard with knee-jerk reactions. They want to get something adopted. They want to be first. You know, we want to be first out of the door. We want to be first to market. And so, you know, Boca's already beat everybody to that, and we're not going to be too far behind. You know, my county commission has said we got 2 months. But, you know, they're looking for something. End of October, I got to deliver a product for Palm Beach County unincorporated. And theoretically, that will be a model that can be adopted through the 29 jurisdictions in Palm Beach County. So that's the most I can tell you about it. Anybody's got any questions, I'll be able to answer. I'm sorry I didn't cover it all, but I'll share the program and the documents that I have. I didn't realize I was going to be asked to present this today. I guess I should have figured it. They've been doing nothing but presentations on this crazy stuff.
Doug, we appreciate it, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate all the effort you're putting into this, and I appreciate you letting me put you on the spot today. I see Ed has his hand raised.
Well, I was just going to mention one other thing, just that, you know, yeah, this happened in Florida, but if you haven't heard about it yet in your own jurisdiction, it's probably coming. I know Illinois has some legislation as well that Tim Schmidt forwarded on that they're looking at with a 4-year cycle of examining structural systems on buildings within a region close to you know, I think to Lake Michigan and everything. We threw Doug on the spot. I also wouldn't mind throwing Mark Matheny on the spot, because I know he had some conversations with the Major Jurisdictions Committee, and he might have some insight as to what everybody else is seeing as well, which I think is not much, but I'll leave that up to Mark here.
If I can, Ed, let me give credit to the New York Department of Buildings, because they have a model out there that the committee looked at too. So there are other models around the country. So I don't think that Florida has any kind of special skill set at this. The New York Department of Buildings facade model, you know, I have it over here on my desk, and it's pretty comprehensive. So we went through that too. Sorry.
Yeah, if you don't mind a couple minutes, appreciate that, Ed. And thanks. I see Sam's on here. To Sam and everybody there with Major Jurisdictions. It initiated to me a couple of building officials from Georgia got a hold of me to see what we're doing in Asheville for our high rises. And I asked them if they really have ever been to Asheville, because we're not known for our high rises necessarily, although we do have plenty of them built in like 1920s and such. So, but anyway, that actually got everything kind of rolling. Reached out to Major Jurisdictions to see what they were doing, got an amazing response back from them, and also did a little bit of research on my own, and I'll get to that in a second. And, you know, it's obviously a reoccurring theme. You know, everybody on here has probably experienced some level of this, that there really is no, there's nothing in place, right, for doing that. But the reoccurring theme was that basically periodic inspections. Everybody has some version of fire marshals or fire departments going out doing periodic inspections and taking a look at that, and then making, you know, maybe the building department aware of that, or whatever that relationship is. But Doug and Dan, I think you both touched on it, that's, you know, we have a relationship. Not everybody has a great relationship, but that's, I think that's in our future to build on that relationship and see how that blend goes together. The other thing that I found when I was researching a little bit is the GSA, right, Government Services Association. had a pretty fantastic document. Now, it didn't go into the structural part, but I didn't spend a lot of time on it either. They may have that somewhere else, but the GSA actually has a document that recommends how to maintain your large buildings over years, right? It says, you do your mechanical checkups X amount of years, and you do, your plumbing systems X amount of years, and kind of has a detailed thing. It was like, I don't know, 150-page document or something. But I thought that was pretty interesting. Didn't get into structural, didn't get into what we're specifically talking about, but there is a model out there for repetitive maintenance. And thanks.
Anybody else want to weigh in on this while we're on the topic?
Yeah, this is Christopher McWhite up in Rhode Island right now. As I understand it, there's a ACCA manuals out there that have periodic requirements for inspections as well, that can gives guidance to mechanical contractors on questions they're supposed to actually ask for servicing of equipment. And so guidelines like that really do go along hand in hand with periodic buildings as well. And anybody in New England also understands, like Massachusetts has the periodic inspections, where it's jointly done between building and fire as well. There's Table 110 inspections. But my last question is, was the frequency of inspection delved into at all in Florida? The national media made it seem like they only inspect these buildings once every 40 years. I said, 40 years? That just doesn't seem right. Was that accurate, or was that misreported?
That is correct. Under both the Dade and Broward County models, buildings were required at a minimum to get inspected prior to their 40th year, turn in paperwork, and get recertified. Thereafter, there were additional certifications, but they waited to 40 years. Now, universally, everybody here has discussed it needs to be more frequent. And depending where you are, I mean, they're talking 20 to 25 years along the coast. And the building owner should look at that stuff even more often.
Sam? Sam Palmer, you're muted.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. Good to see you guys. Hey, on the Major Jurisdiction Committee, we paneled or queried a bunch of the different jurisdictions around the country. Most everybody do not have any type of a reoccurring or repeating type inspection program for high rises. Here in Las Vegas, we're in a dry desert condition. That doesn't say things won't fail, and our commissioners, obviously, since the Florida collapse, have been questioning us regularly on what are we going to do and how are we going to protect our buildings. About the only folks I'm aware of out on the West Coast is Southern California, Long Beach area, some of their high rises, mid-rise, high rise. Seattle's got a few inferences in regards to inspections, but not a regular program. Unless there's a complaint case brought in, filed with building or through fire prevention, however you want to do that, then we'll get involved. But since the Florida collapse, we've probably looked at 24 high rises out here, down on the Strip and whatnot. One of them, a big, tall gold building with a past president's name on it, but no real issues. I mean, obviously, we've got maintenance concerns, et cetera, but nothing. We don't have a corrosive environment like you got there in Florida or whatnot. But everybody we've talked to, all the agencies we talked to, you can imagine, with the next short time period, a few years and whatnot, I think we're all going to be dealing with some type of a reoccurring code. Thanks.
Well, appreciate that, Sam. And I think, again, this offers a marvelous opportunity for our MCs to lead in the effort. I've heard just during this conversation from 3 different jurisdictions and one national organization that these programs are either in place or going to be put in place, or they have model standards to go by. I didn't know that before we got here. Well, guess what? If they exist, or if we or groups like us are in the process of developing it, the problem, as it always is how do we get that information out to everybody? I think that this Surfside, as disastrous as it was, it was, serves as an opportunity for us to work together to be, again, proactive in helping to develop not necessarily a standard that is used everywhere, but a process by which standards can be developed. That's where we usually get hung up. We run into roadblocks from people who really don't want the standard to be implemented. And we cease operating at that point because we can't get through our own municipal, state, or federal bureaucracies. That's the death knell, in my opinion, for building safety, is the fact that we are thwarted by our own bureaucracies. And I don't mean necessarily the building community or the building inspector or the fire communities. I mean the people who don't want us to regulate their business any more than we already do. So how do we get around that, knowing that what we are going to do is going to be good for not just this generation, but the next generation? How do we do that? It takes a lot of communication. It takes perseverance. Again, I think we've had a door opened here, and I don't think we can just walk through it. I think we've got to hold that door open to allow people in and out for a long period of time. Exchange of ideas, exchange of information, communication. We've got some very, very smart people just on this call, and an opportunity to do good everywhere. Sam, sorry.
Dan, well said. Well, that good, open, fast communications is critical. Right now, we have our downtown resort inspection program, and that was created multiple years ago for all the high rises on the Strip, based on some I'll use the word unpermitted work. Since that program has been installed, we put it together, and it's a very robust program. But I'm talking, the building, building owners, et cetera, have spent 9, let alone 10 figures. That's in the billions of dollars in regards to repairs and whatnot down on the Strip. And like you said, we got to communicate and come up with a program that makes good sense, that has a start and an end date, or a defined structure, rather than just an ongoing program. Because you sit out there ongoing, I can put a zealous inspector out there, and I'll get to the point that I'll cost you, 10 figures, 9 figures, and you won't be a business. And at the same time, I can put a different type inspector out there with a more broader outlook on things, and get you through it and keep you safe and keep you running. So defining what you want is critical, and that us as the building officials, that we need to do, because that's going to be a critical step in this program. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, and I appreciate you. Chris has got your hand up. Chris, I'll get you in just a second. While we're in the midst of this discussion, who would be willing to volunteer to take a little bit of time out? And we won't overdo it, because I know everybody's busy, and I know we've got another little pandemic pressing in on us. Who on this call would be willing to volunteer to sit down with some special calls at special times dedicated to nothing but this subject?
This is Sam. I'll help from the MJC point of view. Yes.
Okay. Who else? Doug, can we count on you?
Yeah, count me in, Dan.
Who else? Roy Johnston, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'd be interested in helping in any way anything that would help.
Okay. Roy, I don't have your contact information. Will you send it to Bill Nash?
Will do, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. Who else? Tim Deal and one other person.
I'll be willing from the fire side. I know that's one of the eyes, but as part of this committee also, I'd be more than happy to help out.
Thanks, man. Christopher McWhite, you had your hand up.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm one of those guys that watches probably too much public television. So I was watching one of them videos about how cities were built. If anybody knows anything about, so let me start off with one question. What is this area where the high rise is constructed? Is it densely populated? Is it well developed? A lot of structures out there?
If you're asking about Surfside, my answer would be yes. It is
Okay.
urban area along the coast. It's on a coastal dune. I don't know, down there, there's a lot of shell rock. So,
Mhm.
it may be on hard shell. Typically there's pile construction and, tall buildings along the coast. You ever seen the videos of Miami Beach? That's what you're looking at. You're looking at Miami Beach, basically.
Okay, so the reason I bring that question up is if you go back to the 17th and 16th century, Mexico City looked, when it was being built up by the Aztecs, it looked more like Venice than it did anything else. It literally had canals everywhere and all this, and it was not densely populated. And then the conquistadors came in from Spain, and suddenly the population quadrupled and more. And all those canals were filled in with roads, and it just got bigger and bigger over this as the centuries went on. Today, the city is sinking, physically sinking into the ground as much as a meter every so many years. And it could be 10 or more meters down by the end of the century. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about how buildings are being put up in places that they ought not be, overpopulation, and causing things to fail structurally as a result. But that doesn't really get into building. That really gets into things that are outside of the building office and really focuses on zoning. So I'm wondering how much is the zoning office and all that, and the planning office being talked with about their contribution to this occurrence as well.
Christopher, you've opened up a whole new area right there, and it's one that unfortunately most of us building officials are not that familiar with. I was very, very fortunate to come in on that side and have a huge amount of involvement in our state zoning and in our local development and planning. But most people don't have the benefit of that. And I'll give you a perfect example of why this is so critical to bring that into this discussion. And Doug, correct me at any point that I'm wrong on here, because I'm apt to do that when I'm following something remotely. Right now, there's a judge who is sitting on a decision made by the local zoning committee to not allow the same density of units to be put back on that site. And if that happens, then what will happen, some of the people who have invested through ownership in those condos have now effectively lost value in dollars in their building. And so when they sell, they will sell for less than what they feel it is worth because they can't put as many units back on it. And that's totally a zoning call. And it will be challenged in court, I'm sure, with many, many other things. And we hadn't heard the end of it. But your point is twofold. Number one, we have to have somebody in these conversations who is willing to talk about the zoning of specific sites and its effect on construction. And the other thing is what we're really talking about through regulation or deregulation on these sites is actually sustainability in the built environment. And so we've got two huge areas to come back in here. James, Willamette.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. Just real quick, I do apologize. I had a 3:00 meeting I got to jump out on. This is a very interesting topic, and I'm kicking myself for leaving, but I will be able to watch the video on the backside. So I do apologize. I will see some of you hopefully out in Pittsburgh. Thanks.
Okay. And that was kind of a long and rambling way of saying you also want to be engaged on this committee that's going to do this work, right?
No, Dan.
Oh, geez, man. And I just thought I was learning to speak Willamette.
As much as I'd like to say yes, unfortunately, my plate is more than full where I'm at right now. I ain't got time to turn around sideways.
I got you. Doug, go ahead.
Thanks.
Doug Wise, go ahead.
Sorry, I had my mic off. I want to answer part of the question he raised. You're talking about geotechnical evaluations for a foundation. Now, in Florida, I don't know about the rest of y'all, we don't have a lot of bedrock. We're dealing with swampland. We're dealing with sand. We're dealing with muck. I don't know if you ever try to build anything on muck, but you know, we have a lot of this county was out west in particularly, we have deposits of muck. So any significant structure other than maybe your backyard shed on skids is going to have geotechnical investigations. We do borings and we do, you know, soil density. We have a geotechnical engineer look at that. So I will tell you, even 40 years ago on Miami Beach, there was some sort of subsurface investigation that took place in the records for that building. Now, was it the same level of expertise that we utilize today? You know, the technology is amazing. We have today, we have ground penetrating radar, dual head, where you can get a 3D picture of everything in the ground, particularly in urban areas like where I worked at West Palm Beach. You're looking to locate because you got underground electrical duct banks that belong to the electric utility. You got water mains, you got sewer mains running between lift stations, you got force mains. I mean, you got everything in the ground. You know, you got buildings built on top of this stuff sometimes. So it's a little bit scary, but I will tell you, we'll wait and see what they say. But there's nobody that's indicated anything that I saw yet that said there was a geological problem. Because we do have those. There sometimes sinkholes open up. I'm not aware of any sinkholes opening up in that area. We tend to have them in the center and northern area of the state where the springs are, like Ocala. You know, Mike's on the call, right? Like where Mike's at. You know, our board director. But so you know, I'm just saying, we do that here, and so that I don't know that that's the issue, but I think it's going to be a lot of issues that are going to come out. And zoning, I don't even go there. I mean, whatever they're allowed to build, I'm getting paid to make sure it's safe, so I'm good with it.
All right, thanks.
I want to live in the woods. I want to go where, you know, where some of these other guys are. You know, where Ed and Dan are. I want to go out in the woods. I don't want to be, you know. Who was it had the frozen picture on the back? Was that Dan or Ed? I mean, that was beautiful stuff. I mean, for me, that's great. I'm tired of living in the cities.
Okay, Doug Wise, Montana is looking for an inspector. So go ahead. We got one more person with her hand up there. Mr. Romney.
Yeah, I'm from Utah, Salt Lake City. And I've been around a while, but what was talked about or mentioned before is that home builders and our politicians take the front seat as far as what we as building officials and inspectors really have an effective means to affect things in our communities. So, you know, the bottom line is government relations. And if ICC, if building officials and inspectors can work with the home builders and our politicians that make the laws, that's key. I mean, we can sit here and we can speculate and we can produce all of the scientific data that we want that is valid and truthful, but unless we can engage our politicians, those that make the laws, we really don't have a whole lot of voice in this. So we've got to be able to work with those people that make the laws, whether they're city administrators or mayors or council. We've got to be able to have the ability, whether it's through our influence or whatever it is. But, you know, ICC, I would say, has the ability to make an effective inroad with the lawmakers in each of our jurisdictions to recognize the importance of what we're trying to affect here. But until we can do that, you know, we're kind of without a rudder, without any kind of propeller in the water.
I agree with you 100%, Brian. Ed and Mark, you got another guy here, Brian Romney, Salt Lake City, Utah, who's a good person to talk to before we redo the 7 Cs program. Okay? Just keep that in mind. Brian, do you mind sending your email address to Bill Nash, and would you be opposed to a follow-up call?
Well, yeah, I could help out. I've tried to do my bit here in Utah, but it's swimming upstream, and I think every state is the same way with lawmakers. Yeah, I'd be happy to provide whatever I can. What's the email address?
Just send it to wnash@iccsafe.org. And yes, we're swimming upstream in about every avenue that we go on here. And that's why I admire us and our tenacity so much, because one thing we're not going to do, we're not going to quit. We're just not going to quit. And this is another good way to engage. And so, having said that, guys, I appreciate all the comments. Doug, I particularly appreciate what you're doing. I look forward to getting the information, and I'll make a couple phone calls and send out a couple emails, and we'll figure out a way to get started on this on behalf of all our partners and our peers here in the building safety world. And remember, the building safety world isn't just your building officials. It is your builders. It is your designers. It's your engineers. It's the people who count the dollars when they invest in these buildings. It's the people who try to take a good plan and lean or value engineer it into a more affordable package. All of them are our partners. So we have to communicate with them. We have to help them shape their mission so that it reflects a little bit of ours. And the way to do that is communicate, get to know your city managers, your mayors, your councils, your commissions, and your legislators, and work with them. And having said that, it's 4:05, so we're going to move on right now. And I want to go to the action item updates, and we'll move quickly as we go on. Ideas for guest speakers. Of course, we didn't have a guest speaker this weekend, unless you want to count Doug Wise, and I appreciate you, Doug, for being our impromptu guest speaker. You did a great job. I've got news for you. We'll be talking about this again, and this will come back in the form of a special presentation here, or I would encourage our fire service membership councils and major jurisdictions to perhaps let's look for an opportunity as we flesh out some ideas on this to do presentations to all of our membership as ICC building officials and offer a special event. I think it would be well received and worthwhile. Update to the initiative matrix. I'll pass that over to Ed Lisinski and to Bill Nash.
Well, thanks, Dan. And I think just in the interest of time, I think everybody's aware of the initiative matrix. Keep that thing moving. It's really easy to find on the BMC GC website. If you're a liaison to some of the other membership councils, and we'll get into that in a little bit, my subcommittee report, but if you are a liaison after each of those different membership council meetings, please go in there, update what you can, and especially if there's any sort of joint initiatives between the different membership councils. We got to start getting that thing updated and moving. Our BMC section's a little weak, so I'd really appreciate it. Even if you're not a liaison or anything, if you want to go into that, and if you think of something that we're working on here at the BMC and it's not covered in that matrix, please reach out to me and Bill and get that thing updated. And with that, unless Bill has anything else to add, we can move on.
No, thank you, Ed. You hit it spot on.
Appreciate it, Ed. We'll move to agenda item 7, subcommittee reports, and we'll keep them brief, but we'll just hit the hot spots. I'm going to raise the profile for myself today. Steve Nordhughes, the chair of that group, could not be on the call, but instead of talking about it, what we're doing and raise the profile, I want to talk a little bit about administrative structural changes after the ABM. What we're going to do is, again, change the way we do business as part of kind of the culture change. The administrative changes follow. And one of the big things that we intend to do in BMCGC is to grow our membership and also grow the abilities and the integral input of all of our governing committee members. And we've got things that we've discussed that we'll talk about in our formal meeting at the ABM for how we intend to do that, how we intend to not only grow the abilities of our GC members, but grow the continuity of their contributions through the mission that we are in search of constantly, and the goals that we are constantly trying to achieve. Having said that, again, it'll just be a change in the way that we set up our committees, the way we set up the chairs of our committees, and the way we basically do a little bit of our business. And it'll be a good thing, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'll move on to 2, community building best practices and innovation. Mark Matheny.
Yeah, in the concept of fast time, we had a real quick meeting last week. We're a small group. We have great plans. We have great direction. So tell a friend. Come join CBPPI. We need you. We got a lot of things to do, and it's going to take a lot of people to do it. So we're really looking at post ABM to build this up. We've got ideas, got direction, pretty strong at this point. So we really want to do that. The other thing, Innovation Award went well this year. Once again, it was a post-COVID year. So, but the team came together very well, did a great job, and you'll be hearing about that. And that's it.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Continuity and outreach. What am I see a question from Sam Balmer?
Mark, I'm going to give you a quick call a little bit later on and talk about the best practices presentation coming up at the ABM. So you guys look forward to that.
Great.
Sounds great. Saw your name on there, and I appreciate that. Yep.
Okay. Number 3, continuity and outreach. Ed Lisinski.
Yeah, again, just keeping it pretty quick here. We did meet at the start of August, so we did have a pretty good meeting. Little short on people, but I think just with the summer and everything, that's to be expected. So we'll meet again at the ABM, and I think we'll probably talk about that when we talk about the ABM, but just in case we don't, there is a continuity and outreach meeting 3:30 to 5 on Saturday of the ABM, and room to be determined still, I believe, but unless I see Bill turned his camera on. Bill, if you had a update on the ABM meeting, but let me real quick before we jump over to Bill. We do need at least 2 new liaisons. I'm going to wait till after the ABM to kind of talk about that, just to see, who's still around, who we have available, how the whole, like Dan mentioned, the restructuring of some of these, how that all shakes out. And so we'll have a few new opportunities for people to be liaisons to a couple of the different membership councils out there. So if you have some interest in that, please let me know between now and then, and more to come on that after the ABM, but I'll let Bill get into the CNO meeting on Saturday there.
Yeah, Ed, thank you. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head relative to liaisons, and in the theme of what Dan just chatted about, some changes. When we go to ABM, and we've all kind of forgotten about this, it's been a year. It's been almost a year since we've been there, 2 years, right? There'll be changes on the governing committee, particularly this year, on not just the BMC, but there'll be changes on other governing committees, which would then change potentially chairs and vice chairs, and then liaisons to the BMC committee, this continuity and outreach. So stay tuned on that. A lot of that will play out as the ABM unfolds, and then after the ABM unfolds. But there are likely some changes, not only coming to our own BMC subcommittees, but also the continuity and outreach, as Ed laid out and we just talked about. So while I'm here, I may as well just quickly hit on the ABM, as Ed spoke of, on Saturday, September 18th at 3:30, and I can report to you it's in room 319. I will put that on all of the appropriate information, but at the convention center in Pittsburgh, the continuity and outreach will meet. It will be a relatively light agenda for that group. But it will be some discussion on some administrative stuff, but generally it'll be an opportunity for each of the governing committees to give an update, a little more in-depth update to the people that attend. Some people, the travel plans may not allow them to be there, but they will have an opportunity to address the group that's there. In addition to the board of directors, I know board of directors are in a board meeting typically around that time. but when they get out for a break or if they break early, they will come in and have an opportunity to address the group. So we always welcome that as well. So stay tuned for more information coming out of for the continuity and outreach, but it is going to be a 3:30 start with a relatively light agenda to allow people travel and just flexibility. And then, of course, the always fun Building Membership Council Cone of Excellence dinner that we've begun several years ago, thanks to the past chair, Chris Young. We'll be meeting at Fogo de Chao. So those of you that are on not only the governing committee for the Building Membership Council, but other governing committees, please check with your liaison on that. You are all invited. Governing committee members are invited to the Fogo de Chao. Most people have chimed in already, but I just want to make a quick plug for that. So other than that, I won't have to update that again when we reach it later on in the agenda, but had an opportunity now, so I did it now, Ed. Good.
Ed, anything else?
Nope, that's all I got. We got about 15 minutes yet left, so I want to keep moving us along here.
And just by way of the way we typically do things, I know there are a couple of liaisons here from other groups. You might give them a minute or two to just kind of speak. I know ELMC group is here. There's certainly major jurisdictions. I'm not sure if there's any plumbing here, but you know, it might not be a bad thing, kind of a good practice to give maybe a news break of what's going on in any other membership council.
I will do that. I'm going to rush through old and new business, which are basically repetitions. And then we'll do that in members' time. For item 8, old business, this year we did not have an opportunity to work on a collaborative effort for homelessness, which is vital and critical, and it's coming up against us with a resurgent COVID-19 variant and cold weather approaching in about 3 months. And so we will talk about it at the ABM and hopefully try to get a schedule together for that and some other special items that aren't just shaped by the building community, but shaped by the community. And it comes back to the building officials to help deal with it or ameliorate the issue. That Sustainability Membership Council, coffee break continuation. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's still going on. It's a great opportunity to network, share a little time, find out what's going on in other places with other people.
Dan, if I may?
Yes.
Hey, it's Sam again. Back on item 1 for the homelessness in the ICC Live Learn in October, MJC first of the year, Portland put out a homelessness paper, and they wanted an hour training topic on the homelessness. So we were going to showcase that paper. But if someone from the committee wants to join in and help, we can probably cobble together several ideas on homelessness, on where we're at, et cetera, and come up with a good presentation for about an hour in October if somebody wants to help out.
Okay, and let's explore that in a separate conversation, because I got the paper actually from Jim Willamette and went through the whole thing in fairly close detail. It's a great paper. Yep. And yes.
Just to be clear, Sam, you mentioned October for Learn Live. It's November.
I'm sorry, November. You're correct. Yes, sorry.
I want to be clear on that. And there was some discussion more recently between some of the leadership of the governing committees relative to having, as we typically have done in the past, governing committees allowed to present a topic at ABM. Obviously, this year our educational program is limited because of COVID and the time span, but they are allowing some limited opportunity at Learn Live in November, and that's what the answer is to the question for anyone who's looking. That good opportunity, Sam. Thank you for bringing it up, to maybe assist with Sam, somebody from the governing committee, to do so with Sam on that topic.
Great, good stuff. Good
That'd
stuff.
be great.
And thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. That's I like it when we don't miss a chance to engage, and that makes my heart feel great. The MJC candidate forum. We're going to make it happen. It was just too much going on this year to do it, but 2022, look for it to happen. Again, it is not to promote candidates. What it is to allow candidates to share with the membership, and they can be currently seated candidates or candidates who are not seated. But it's an opportunity for them, people who have reached really a pinnacle point, and many times in their national involvement, to tell others the value that they've gained and to answer questions about what they have done in their own communities. Again, communication, communication, communication. We can't do enough of it. We cannot do enough of it. Number 9, new business, Building Safety Month scholarships. We'll hear a lot of that, and y'all will be seeing the program officially. We'll be handing it out, providing it at the ABM. ESR reports, I just want to talk about those. I don't want to get them lost in the woods. Such a valuable tool for all of us. A great way for us to take ownership of that aura of professionalism that should surround us anytime we walk onto a job site, is to know where to get good information from materials that have been tested and approved and are alternates that are ready to be used to the things that are so not necessarily mundane in value, but mundane in practice in our building world. Again, it's a marvelous tool, and we need to take advantage of it. I'd already touched earlier on about the number of people who had applied for positions on the governing committee. Our nominations committee got together, and I have to say that I was out of the meeting because of a severe storm here, but our team jumped in, took up my slack, and did probably a much better job than I would have done. And if anybody who served on that governing committee wants to chime in, and that Bill, that could be you, or Audrey is on here, and I know she was very important in it. Please do now. Otherwise, I'll just go on.
Yeah, I'll just say that just to be clear, the elections for all governing committees take place at 8 a.m. on Sunday, September 19th. That's at the joint membership council meeting at 8 a.m. in room 304 and 305. That's going to be a popular room because it will be not only where the joint meeting is held, the BMC meeting is held, but also the candidate forum, not the one Dan just talked about. The candidate forum for board of directors will happen in that room as well. So keep that room on your mind, but that will happen at 8 a.m. So be there for the election. The nomination committee did put forward multiple names for positions on the governing committee. And like Dan said, it was a busy year, not only for the BMC, but also through all of membership council and a lot of people looking to get involved and active with our group. So good stuff.
All right. And that'll wrap up number 10 or number 9, and now 10 for members time. First, I'd like to give an opportunity for any of our liaisons from staff or GRFs to talk if they would like to do so.
Hey, Dan, it's Matheny. I just want to real quickly, and I don't have the details. Sorry, Sam. I don't have the details. But with Global, a couple of things. Once again, they had a great turnout for applicants for governing committee. So it seems to be an ongoing trend. They've been doing a webinar throughout the year. 2 of them down or 3 of them down. Those are going very well, been pretty successful, good turnout and good presentations. And the other thing is their timing. This is what I don't have in front of me. I'm sorry. I should have thought about that. Their times, their membership council is going to be, I think, Monday PM, like maybe 3:30-ish. And then there's a global day, which is maybe the next day. So there, and I just say that just so you have in your mind the timing doesn't line up with kind of what we're going to see as a whole there, just so everybody's aware of that.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Mark, the global is not meeting at ABM. They are meeting, they are electing to their governing committee.
Right.
They are elected, but I don't believe they are, maybe you are correct. Maybe it's lit. I have that number somewhere, but that's possible. They're meeting the next day.
Yeah, so they didn't, they couldn't get everybody in, so they're doing a virtual meeting, but I'm pretty sure it's Monday, late afternoon,
Okay.
All right.
just without elections and such. Yep. Sorry.
No, appreciate it. Appreciate it much. Sam?
MJC, the Major Jurisdiction Committee, very active, and coming up at the ABM, we'll be co-hosting on the best practices training. That starts at 2:30, runs till about 2:15 to 5:15 on Sunday the 19th. And then on the 20th, Monday, the MJC overall committee meeting will be from 3:30 till about 5:15, and everyone is welcome.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Sam.
Yep.
Anybody else from the other MCs or staff? Anybody from our GR?
Hello, it's Elizabeth with the Emerging Leaders.
Hey, Elizabeth.
Hey, so I can just give a brief update on what we discussed at our last meeting. A couple things I want to point on is Safety 2.0 has updated their website. So if you haven't checked that out recently, I would encourage you to check that out, see some of the resources they've added and just how they've reorganized that page. I know Maddie and her team have been working on that. Also, the ELMC is working on an outreach project and we're starting it. So if you all are plugged into your local chapters, ELMC members will be reaching out to the state chapter to try to get onto an agenda to talk about emerging leaders, the importance of being involved and how you can help promote participation. So if you are plugged in, go ahead and reach out to me and I can connect you with somebody local or schedule somebody to talk to your chapter about that. We'd appreciate the help that we can get with that. And really, we just discussed in the upcoming meeting and are looking forward to seeing everybody in person. So thank you.
Elizabeth, thanks a bunch. I appreciate you chiming in. Who else have we got? Okay, seeing no one's hand raised and hearing none. 11 is the meeting schedule. Do you just want to go through that very quickly, Bill?
Sure. Yeah. So as I'm glad that you did, Dan, ABM continuity and outreach, as we mentioned earlier, Saturday, September 18th, 3:30 to 5 local time. And then I've also put in the joint dinner that we talked about earlier. And of course, the ABM that did not get the modification here, but the 8 a.m. is the joint meeting. And then actually, we are going to move the building membership council to 9:30. There needs to be a transition setting up the room. So that will be reflected in the agenda for the meeting, but that's when that will happen. It'll be 9:30 a.m. And we can go a little bit longer depending on what our agenda is on that for the BMC meeting. And then, of course, we've already pre-scheduled the October and December meetings. And then ultimately, what will happen, the new governing committee will be passed in front of the ICC board and hopefully ratified, and then they will be able to sit and serve beginning 2022. And we can go forward with that, but it won't preclude us from setting up and identifying changes potentially to subcommittees and leadership positions.
Good. Thanks, Bill. I appreciate it. And to kind of close this meeting out, again, thanks to everybody who spent this hour and a half with us. There's been a lot of information in here and a lot of good ideas, a lot of searching for good ideas is obvious. And one thing that I can tell you right now is our plates will be full. The number of things we face in our communities and in our country, they seem like they are absolutely staggering in their weight. But I've got confidence looking across the number of people who attended this call and looking across the people I've done business with, as in this whole time I've been a building safety official or a building safety professional, as I would like to be known. We'll do it. We'll do a great job, and there's nobody better qualified to do it than us. And that's just an absolute fact. I've got confidence in us. I've got confidence in all of y'all, and I've got a great deal of respect, and I've got a great deal of hope that we're going to come through this pandemic, this crisis around building failures, this ongoing and ever expanding issue of homelessness. I think we'll be the people who help as much as anybody else put these issues to rest and make our built environment a safer, better place to live, to grow up, to raise our families, to learn, to love, and to share with one another. And having said that, that's all I've got. Anybody else want to put a final word in on it? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Building Membership Council.
This is Amrinder. I make the motion.
I have a motion. Second. Did I have a second?
I thought I heard somebody. This is Matheny. I'll second.
Okay, good. I was hoping I wasn't going to have to talk again. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Amrinder. And having said that, I hereby close this meeting of the Building Membership Council Governing Committee. Thanks so much to all of you. And I will see you in September, as the lovely song goes. Bye-bye, y'all.
Thank y'all. See you in Pittsburgh.
All righty.